Norfolk, England. A quiet stretch of countryside. A 17th century estate that has stood through wars, dynasties, and centuries of family history. Inside its long corridors, visitors report a figure in a brown brocade gown, a pale face, eyes described as hollow and unseeing, a presence that glides down the grand staircase and disappears. For nearly 2 centuries, this figure has haunted both the halls and the imagination under a single name, the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. And according to the legend, the haunting is only the final chapter of a much older tale. Lady Dorothy Walpole was born in 1686 into one of the most influential families in early 18th century Britain. She was the daughter of Robert Walpole Sr. and the sister of Robert Walpole, who would later become widely regarded as Britain's first Prime Minister. Dorothy grew up in a world of political maneuvering, aristocratic expectations, and the social obligations of the English gentry. Her family's estates, including Houghton Hall, placed her at the center of Norfolk's elite society. Contemporary descriptions portray her as intelligent, sociable, and admired for her grace. In her early adulthood, Dorothy became acquainted with Charles Townshend, the second Viscount Townshend. Charles was a powerful landowner, a statesman, and a man known for both his political influence and his strong temperament. Their marriage united 2 major Norfolk families and cemented a powerful alliance. Dorothy moved into Raynham Hall as Viscountess Townshend. Over the years, she bore several children, 7 in total, and became deeply involved in the daily life of the estate. She oversaw household operations, managed social gatherings, and maintained correspondence with extended family. By all outward appearances, she lived the life expected of an aristocratic woman of her era. But the legend tells a very different story. According to the legend, Lady Dorothy Walpole entered her marriage to Charles Townshend under a shadow of suspicion. Before their union, she had been romantically involved with Lord Wharton, a man known for his influence and his reputation for scandal. Her downfall began when Lucy Loftus, the Countess of Wharton, motivated by spite, rivalry, or lingering resentment over Dorothy's past connection to Lord Wharton, invited her to the Whartons' residence for what appeared to be a short, innocent visit of only a few days. When Dorothy returned to Raynham Hall, Charles Townshend interpreted her acceptance of the invitation as a betrayal, and from that moment, her freedom came to an end. Dorothy's world narrowed quickly. The legend describes her being confined to her rooms within the great house, watched closely, and prevented from leaving the estate. Her contact with the outside world diminished, and even her time with her children became limited. Servants whispered about locked doors, shuttered windows, and a once vibrant woman fading from public view. As the years passed, her isolation deepened. Some accounts describe her health declining behind closed doors, with only a few attendants allowed near her. Others speak of a growing sense of despair within the private chambers of the hall, where Dorothy spent her final days. Her death is presented as equally mysterious. Some versions describe a sudden and unexplained end. Others say she succumbed to smallpox while still confined. A few go further, suggesting that a mock funeral was held to conceal the truth, that she continued to live in seclusion long after the world believed she had been laid to rest. In this telling, Dorothy's spirit never left Raynham Hall. The legend holds that she walks the same corridors where she once paced in life, appearing in the brown brocade gown she wore during her final years. Her presence is said to linger in the quiet hours of the night, a reminder of a life marked by confinement, sorrow, and unfinished stories. Witnesses describe the Brown Lady as a woman in an old-fashioned brown dress, often resembling the style seen in Dorothy's portrait. Her face is pale. Her eyes appear dark and empty, She moves silently, often on or near the grand staircase. These documented sightings span across 2 centuries, with reports becoming rarer in recent decades. During a holiday gathering at Raynham Hall, Colonel Loftus and another guest, Mr. Hawkins, reported seeing a woman in a brown gown walking toward the bedrooms. Loftus saw her again the following night and focused on her face, glowing with hollow eye sockets. The encounter frightened the household staff so deeply that several left the estate immediately. This sighting marked the beginning of the Brown Lady's fame. In 1836, the next major sighting came from Captain Frederick Marryat, a naval officer, a friend of Charles Dickens, and the author of several well-known sea novels. During his stay at Raynham Hall, he asked to spend the night in the room where the portrait of the Brown Lady hung. He believed the haunting was the work of local smugglers trying to keep people away from the area, and he intended to expose the truth. For 2 nights, nothing happened. Marryat slept with a loaded revolver under his pillow, waiting for any sign of activity. The 3rd night was to be his last. As he was undressing for bed, 2 young men, nephews of the baronet, knocked on his door. They had just received a new gun from London and wanted his opinion on it. Marryat was in only his shirt and trousers, but the hour was late and the household was asleep, so he agreed to accompany them as he was. As he left the room, he picked up his revolver, joking that he might need it in case you meet the Brown Lady. After examining the gun, the young men offered to walk back with him in the same spirit, in case you meet the Brown Lady. The 3 men set off together. The corridor was long and dark. The lamps had been extinguished for the night. As they reached the center of the hallway, they saw the faint glow of a lamp approaching from the far end. "One of the ladies going to the nurseries," whispered the young Townsends. The bedroom doors along the corridor were arranged in pairs, each with an outer and inner door separated by a small space, a feature common in older houses. Marryat, still in his nightclothes, felt exposed. To avoid being seen, he slipped behind one of the outer doors. The 2 young men followed him inside. Through the narrow gap, Marryat watched the figure draw closer. As the light approached, he could make out the colors and style of her clothing. The gown matched the portrait hanging in his room. The figure was identical to the image known as the Brown Lady. Marryat placed his finger on the trigger. He intended to step out and demand an explanation for her presence. Before he could move, the figure stopped directly in front of the door behind which he stood. She raised the lamp to her face. According to his daughter's later account, she grinned at him, a grin described as malicious and unnatural. The sight enraged Marryat. He burst from the doorway and fired his revolver at point-blank range. The figure vanished instantly. The bullet passed through the outer door of the room opposite and lodged in the panel of the inner one. 3 men had watched the apparition together for several minutes, and yet it disappeared the moment the shot was fired. Marryat never attempted to confront the Brown Lady again. Nearly a century later, Lady Townsend's son and a friend reported seeing the Brown Lady on the main staircase. They later identified the figure as resembling Dorothy's portrait. This sighting reinforced the belief that the apparition was tied to the Townsend family itself. On September 19, 1936, photographer Captain Hubert Provand and his assistant Indre Shira were photographing the staircase for Country Life magazine. Shira saw a misty form descending the stairs and shouted for Provand to take the shot. Provand quickly removed the lens cap while Shira triggered the flash. When the negative was developed, it revealed a translucent figure drifting down the staircase. The photograph was published on December 26, 1936, and became one of the most famous ghost images ever printed. When historians began examining the story generations later, a very different picture of Dorothy's life emerged. In the 1960s, researchers uncovered family documents that challenged the darker elements of the legend. These records, along with statements made by Lord Raynham in 2009, describe a household that bore little resemblance to the tales of confinement and secrecy. According to these accounts, Dorothy lived openly within the family and remained an active presence in the daily life of Raynham Hall. Her marriage to Charles Townshend was described as affectionate rather than hostile, and there is no surviving evidence that she was ever locked away or prevented from seeing her children. The documents portray a woman who moved through the rhythms of aristocratic life much as any viscountess of her era would have. In a 2009 interview with BBC Norfolk, Lord Raynham, head of the Townshend family, addressed the legend directly. He stated, "People said that Dorothy was locked away and badly treated, but in the 1960s we uncovered paperwork and medical reports suggesting she had a happy life and was much loved." Her death, too, appears far more ordinary than the legend suggests. Parish records confirm that she died on March 29, 1726, during a smallpox outbreak that affected several households in the region. She was buried shortly afterward, with no indication of a staged funeral or any attempt to conceal the circumstances of her passing. To her descendants, the idea that she lived on in secret isolation is nothing more than a dramatic embellishment that grew over time. Yet even with these clarifications, the sightings continued. The historical record may resolve the question of how Dorothy lived and died, but it does not explain why so many witnesses, across so many decades, believed they saw her walking the halls long after her burial. Paranormal investigators, spiritualists, theologians, and students of psychical research have proposed several explanations for the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall that do not rely on the dramatic imprisonment and tragedy legend. Unresolved attachment after a natural death. Dorothy's strong emotional ties to her children and home may have caused her spirit to linger, especially if her final illness involved isolation or quarantine. A soul seeking prayer or spiritual aid. Some theological interpretations suggest the apparition could be a spirit in a purgatorial state, appearing to devout witnesses in hopes of receiving prayers or intercession. Residual haunting. The Brown Lady may be a non-sentient echo, a psychic replay of past moments or emotions imprinted on the environment rather than an intelligent ghost. Misidentification or another entity. Raynham Hall has multiple reported ghosts. The Brown Lady may not be Dorothy Walpole at all, but another spirit, or even a non-human entity, appearing in a familiar form. Skeptics have offered several alternative explanations for the reported sightings of the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Natural misperception or imagination. The sightings may have resulted from poor lighting in the dimly lit corridors, shadows cast by candles or moonlight, or guests' expectations after hearing ghost stories, causing them to interpret ordinary shapes as a spectral figure. Literary and folkloric embellishment. Gothic literature, including works by Dorothy's nephew Horace Walpole, and broader Victorian ghost story traditions, likely transformed a perfectly ordinary death from smallpox into a more dramatic and tragic haunting narrative over time. Hoax or practical joke. Some of the early sightings, particularly the 1835 accounts by Colonel Loftus and Hawkins, may have been exaggerated or entirely fabricated for entertainment during a Christmas gathering. Guests in large country houses often told ghost stories for amusement, and a playful prank, such as someone in a brown dress or cloak moving through the corridors, could easily have been turned into a real ghost story. Psychological suggestion and mass hysteria. Once the initial rumor of a ghost began circulating among staff and guests, subsequent sightings could have been influenced by suggestion. In a high-pressure social environment like a stately home during the holidays, people primed to expect a ghost were more likely to experience pareidolia, seeing patterns or faces in random stimuli, or mild collective hysteria, especially in the dark, atmospheric setting of Raynham Hall. Regarding the famous 1936 photograph, skeptics have proposed several technical explanations. Photographic accident or trickery. The figure may have been created by grease or a similar substance on the lens, camera movement during a long exposure, Shira accidentally moving down the stairs, or stray light leaking into the camera. Double exposure. Investigator Joe Nickel and others have identified signs of superimposition, including pale lines above each stair tread and duplicated reflections on the banister, suggesting two images were combined on the same plate. Deliberate recreation. Magician John Booth successfully recreated a similar ghostly effect by photographing a man in a sheet descending a staircase, demonstrating how easily such an image could be produced. Superimposed statue. Critics note that the figure closely resembles a statue of the Virgin Mary, complete with draped garments and a pedestal-like base, implying a religious image was superimposed onto the staircase scene. Despite these skeptical objections, the Brown Lady photograph remains one of the most iconic and debated spirit images ever taken. Raynham Hall stands at the intersection of legend and history. The folklore tells one story, a woman confined and forgotten. The historical record tells another, a life ended by illness, not cruelty. Between these two narratives lies a mystery that has endured for centuries. Whether the Brown Lady is a lingering spirit, a residual echo, a misinterpreted image, or a creation of Gothic imagination, her presence continues to captivate investigators and storytellers. And as long as people walk the quiet halls of Raynham, the question remains, who or what still walks beside them? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, give a like and hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our new content.